Imagine trekking through the vast, icy expanse of Siberia. For thousands of miles in every direction, there's nothing but frozen tundra, coniferous forests, and the occasional hardy settlement. You're hundreds, maybe even thousands of miles from the nearest ocean. Now, what's the last thing you'd expect to find out here? Buried in the permafrost? A car? Maybe an old hunting cabin? How about the complete skeleton of a massive whale? It sounds like the beginning of a science fiction movie, but this is a real-life mystery that has baffled scientists and locals for decades. How did the bones of giant marine mammals end up so far inland in one of the most remote and landlocked places on Earth? Today, we're diving deep into the enigma of the Siberian whale skeletons, exploring the wild theories, the scientific explanations, and the incredible story these ancient bones have to tell. The discoveries aren't just a one-off thing. Over the years, multiple sets of whale bones have been unearthed across the Siberian landscape. One of the most famous sites is along the banks of the Irtysh River, more than 700 miles from the Arctic coast. Another set was found even further inland. These aren't just a few scattered vertebrae either. We're talking about massive skulls, rib cages, and flipper bones, sometimes nearly complete skeletons, belonging to species like bowhead whales, which can grow up to 60 feet long and weigh nearly 100 tons. When these finds first started popping up, the local explanations were, as you can imagine, pretty out there. Ancient folklore of the indigenous peoples, like the Nenets and the Khanty, speaks of giant underground spirits or mythical creatures. Finding the bones of a colossal sea creature in the middle of the continent must have seemed like concrete proof of these legends. Some even whispered that these were the remains of biblical leviathans washed ashore by a great world-covering flood. For a long time, without any scientific tools to analyze the bones, these stories were all people had. But, as science advanced, researchers began to piece together a much more fascinating and frankly mind-blowing geological history. The key to this puzzle isn't about whales learning to walk or flying through the air. The secret lies in the land itself and how dramatically it has changed over millennia. Let's turn back the clock. Way back about 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age, the world looked incredibly different. Massive ice sheets, some miles thick, covered much of North America and Eurasia. As the global climate started to warm up, these immense glaciers began to melt at an astonishing rate. All that water had to go somewhere. This is where it gets really interesting. The melting didn't just cause sea levels to rise globally, it had a bizarre and localized effect on Siberia. In North America, the meltwater had a relatively clear path to the Atlantic Ocean. But in Siberia, the great northward flowing rivers, the Ob, the Yenisei, the Lena were effectively dammed by the still frozen Arctic Ocean and the remnants of the ice sheets to the north. Imagine a bathtub where the drain is plugged. Water starts pouring in from the faucet, and it has nowhere to go but up and over the sides. That's essentially what happened in Siberia, but on a continental scale. The meltwater from the retreating glaciers pooled up, forming a colossal body of water known as the West Siberian Glacial Lake. This wasn't just a lake, it was an inland sea. At its peak, it's estimated to have been the largest freshwater lake in world history, covering an area of over 300,000 square miles. That's bigger than the entire state of Texas. This immense lake effectively submerged vast portions of what is now the West Siberian Plain. But here's the crucial link to our whale mystery. At certain times, this megalake would have breached its icy barriers and connected directly to the Arctic Ocean. This created a temporary marine passageway, a sort of ancient Siberian canal stretching deep into the continent. So picture this: curious and hungry whales, likely bowheads and possibly gray whales, following the nutrient-rich currents, swam from the Arctic Ocean right into this newly opened waterway. For them, it was just a new feeding ground, a vast estuary teeming with plankton and small crustaceans. They would have explored this new inland sea, swimming hundreds of miles south, deep into the heart of what would become modern-day Siberia. They were simply following the food, completely unaware that they were swimming over land that would one day be frozen tundra. But this watery paradise was temporary. The climate is a fickle thing. As the geological conditions shifted, perhaps as ice dams reformed, or the land itself began to rebound from the immense weight of the glaciers, a process called isostatic rebound, their connection to the Arctic Ocean would have been severed. The inland sea would have gradually receded, its salinity dropping as it became a freshwater lake once more. For any whales trapped inside, this was a death sentence. Whales are marine mammals perfectly adapted to saltwater. They can't survive for long in a freshwater environment. Their skin would have suffered, their ability to regulate their body's salt balance would have failed, and their food sources would have disappeared. Stranded in this shrinking, freshening lake, they would have eventually perished. Their massive bodies would sink to the bottom, where they would be covered by layers of sediment. Over the next several thousand years, the West Siberian glacial lake completely drained away, leaving behind the vast, flat plain we see today. The climate continued to cool, and the ground froze deep, creating the permafrost that entombed the whale skeletons. For millennia, they lay perfectly preserved in this natural deep freeze, silent witnesses to a lost Siberian sea. It wasn't until modern times, as rivers changed their courses, erosion cut into ancient lake beds, or permafrost began to thaw due to climate change, that these skeletons started to reappear. Each discovery is like a time capsule, a physical piece of evidence confirming this incredible chapter of Earth's history. Scientists use various methods to confirm this theory. They can radiocarbon date the bones, which consistently places them around 10,000 to 12,000 years old, perfectly aligning with the end of the last ice age and the existence of the glacial lake. They also analyze the sediment in which the bones are found. Often, this sediment contains fossilized shells of marine microorganisms, further proof that the area was once a saltwater or brackish environment connected to the ocean. So, the mystery of the Siberian whales isn't one of mythical beasts or biblical floods. It's a story of profound and rapid environmental change. It's a powerful reminder that the world we live in is not static. The ground beneath our feet has a history we can barely comprehend. Landscapes we see as permanent fixtures, mountains, plains, rivers are just a snapshot in geological time. And this story is more relevant now than ever. As our current climate changes and Arctic permafrost thaws at an accelerating rate, more of these ancient secrets are being revealed. Not just whales, but woolly mammoths, ancient bison, and even prehistoric human settlements are emerging from the ice. Each discovery gives us a clearer picture of the past, but it also serves as a stark warning about the future. The same forces of climate change that created the Siberian inland sea and stranded those whales are at play again today, albeit in a different way. The next time you look at a map and see the vast, solid landmass of Siberia, remember the whales. Remember that not so long ago, in the grand scheme of things, a sea existed where there is now land, and giant ocean dwellers swam freely hundreds of miles from any modern coastline. It's a humbling thought, a testament to the immense power of nature and the ever-changing face of our incredible planet. The world is full of mysteries, and sometimes the truth is far stranger and more wonderful than any fiction we could invent. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the icy past. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's greatest mysteries. See you next time.